Welcome to Decaf, Please, a podcast about cultivating calm and mastering your mindset. I'm Hill, ex-anxious wreck, health and wellness journalist, and certified yogi/nutrition coach. My goal is to help you slow things down, overcome your blocks, and take your power back so you can have the kind of life that you truly, truly love. Ready? Let's get into it. Welcome back to Decaf, Please. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you're well wherever you are in the world. Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to recognize that I know there is so much going on, and I would be out of touch if I didn't at least mention that I too feel the collective heaviness and I sense the undercurrent of anxiety in our world right now. At some point soon, I'll release an episode about how to remain grounded during such an unprecedented time. Until then, I hope you're doing okay, and I'm sending you strength. In the meantime, I'm going to keep talking about lighter topics because they are still important and relevant. And if we don't change ourselves, we cannot change the world, right? It starts from within. So today, we're talking about time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, yet have you noticed that some of us can't find enough hours, while others are checking off their to-do list with plenty of time to spare? This episode is for you if you feel time poor and you're stressed AF about never having enough hours in the day. In today's episode, I'm going to share a quick story about when I had no time and my exit out of that, the 4 C's of where your time goes so you can take your power back. I'll ask some bigger questions to help you dig a little deeper. And finally, I'll talk about the blue zones in the world and what we can learn about their relationship to time. For timestamps on this content, be sure to check out the show notes. I want to share a quick story for some context on this topic. I used to have a real type A personality. A few years ago, back in California, I felt like I had about 1 million spinning plates. I was a full-time journalist. I was a co-incorporator for a nonprofit, running their entire marketing and communication strategy from the ground up. I was putting myself through yoga teacher training. I had a long-term partner. I had a rich social life. I was working out 6 days a week. On the side, I was a host for a popular meetup group in my area. Oh, and then 2 of my aging relatives started having major health issues. So they moved to the town where I lived, and I became sort of the ad hoc power of attorney for every aspect of their lives. Housing, finances, doctor's appointments, literally everything. So from the outside looking in, it sure seemed like I had my shit together, right? It looked like I was successful by all contemporary metrics. But every moment of every single day was structured. And whenever someone would ask me, "How are you, Hill?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm super busy, you know." And that was my automated response to being a human. I used to really wear that busyness like a badge of honor. By the way, this is just one snapshot of a moment in time in my life, but the truth is my entire life had really been like this. And this lifestyle was not sustainable. Pretty soon, some significant cracks started appearing in the foundation of my reality, and it wasn't long before everything I built just toppled over. For starters, my relationship to the person I thought I would marry ended. It was so heartbreaking, and even though we were going on different paths in life and it was making us grow apart, I know that my workaholism certainly did not help anything. Next, I got laid off from my journalism job. And no doubt this was because I was spending so much energy on other projects outside of my work, and so truly my heart wasn't in it, and I think they could tell. Oh, and right in the middle of this, because I didn't slow down and listen to my body, I didn't speak up when my personal trainer suggested we double the weights on a squat rack. I remember that day I wasn't quite sure my body could handle it, but I chose to trust him over myself, and I injured my spine as a result. And that led to a number of complications, like episodes of paralysis that required hospitalizations, nerve damage, sciatica, and other issues that I'm still living with today, 4 years later. This period of time in my life was a reality collapse. It was a real tower moment. If I'd been paying attention before things fell apart, I would have heard the whispers, right? I would have seen the signs coming. But I didn't slow down, and so the universe, with love, handed me some pretty tough lessons. I share this story with you for a couple of reasons. First, it's a cautionary tale. Don't be like Hill. Don't fill up every moment of your day with something to do. But I also want to point out that this is very much a cultural phenomenon. My story is not unique. This is hustle culture. It's a very Americanized trait. This go, 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 do, do, do. And I believe it's actually one of the core contributors to our anxiety as a collective. So, what do we do? Now that you've heard my story, how can you take your power back over your own time? Well, I'll tell you, but first, a word about Skillshare. Chances are your time is going everywhere but you, and what better way to carve out some much needed solo time than by learning something new and fun? Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes in design, business, tech, and more. I've used Skillshare to take classes in everything from podcasting to photography to self-care. Right now, listeners of Decaf Please can get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. There's no long-term commitment, and you can cancel anytime. To get started on your 30-day free trial, click on the link in the show notes. Thank you so much to Skillshare for supporting this show. And now, back to the rest of this episode. In this next part of the episode, let's try to free up some of your time so you can stop feeling so time broke. Awareness is the first step towards change. Let's talk about the 4 C's. Back when I still had a personal Instagram and I came up with the 4 C's concept and shared it, it received 3 times the amount of usual traffic and shares. It really seemed to resonate with people. And one thing was clear to me. Time is the new money. Here are the 4 places where you likely spend your time. Number 1, creation. This is playing with your passions. From getting outside with your camera, to writing poetry, to sitting down at the piano or a blank canvas with no plan in particular. This is freestyling. It can also include the intangibles, like creating new memories with a loved one. Creation gets you into what researchers call a flow state, that place where time and space seem to stop because you're enjoying yourself so much. And not only are you being productive, but it feels amazing while you're at it. We often cast creation aside because it seems like a time waster. Yet if you spend a few hours here, you'll notice that creation can actually fill up your cup. So it'll help you feel more balanced and buzz with new life, which can now overflow into other tasks and help you get more done overall. So we talked about the first C, creation, and now there's the second C, consumption. Consumption isn't just what you put in your body, it's what you put in your mind too. In this context, consumption means numbing out on mainstream news, gossiping with negative people, or the endless social media scroll. It brings down your vibe, it brings down your energy. When we're spending a lot of time in consumption, it often indicates that we're not ready to deal with something. Maybe we're feeling overwhelmed by life, or we're operating on autopilot. How many times have we all pulled out our cell phone and just hit the Instagram icon without even thinking, right? And while it may feel good in the moment, ultimately, consumption is a cup drainer. When you spend too much time here, it brings on a kind of brain fog and it kills the motivation to handle the rest of your day. Think about the last time you sat and you binged through a Netflix series over the course of like 3 or 4 days. When that was all done, you may have felt really fulfilled because you got to spend time resting and catching up on a show that you really love. But if we're really honest with ourselves, after that happened, were you ready to get up and make a painting? No, probably not, right? There's a reason for this. Researchers have found that social media and news consumption can increase anxiety and depression, which are absolute motivation killers. I actually believe that this consumption energy is the culprit behind our collective, quote, "I don't have enough time" mantra. This is where our energy is getting leaked or sapped. The third C is conscious consumption. This is still the consumption of new information, but with a twist. It's good for us. This refers to the activities that broaden our knowledge base, impart a lesson, give us a fresh perspective, teach us a new skill, or help us to solve a complex problem. Think classes, books, podcasts, a new language, or inspirational social media accounts. Or, Skillshare. Shameless plug. Unlike consumption in the traditional sense, conscious consumption deepens our pool of inner wisdom so that we can draw from it in the future and live out more meaningful lives. There are actual science-backed benefits to learning something new and doing complex problem solving. It increases something called gray matter in your brain, which can help mitigate cognitive decline. Plus, let's be real, conscious consumption just feels good, right? It's another cup filler, like creation. The last C is conditioning. These are the tasks that kind of suck in the moment, right? The things that we want to push off until tomorrow or, never. They offer little in the way of instant gratification, but they act like compound interest. Each investment builds on the other. Conditioning refers to your job, if it's not totally soul-sucking, cooking, fitness, doctor's appointments, sending out thank you cards, meditation, answering your emails, doing laundry, on and on. This category also refers to things that don't entirely suck, but they're still necessary to keep you functioning as a happy, healthy human. For example, getting ample sleep. Conditioning every single day ensures that things don't pile up. So there you go. The first one is creation, the second one is consumption, the third C is conscious consumption, and the last one is conditioning. Now it's time to get to know yourself a little better. The next time you're sitting down, divide a blank piece of paper into 4 columns. Label them creation, consumption, conscious consumption, and conditioning. I want you to think about your usual schedule over the course of a day or a week and place your tasks into the corresponding category. So like date night with your partner, I would call that creation. Pilates, conditioning. Facebook, I would say that's consumption. Pottery class, I'd call that conscious consumption. You're learning a new skill. Your job, that could be creation, that could be conditioning, or if you are using your work to avoid other areas of your life, it could also be consumption. So the idea is to really get to know yourself and examine the energies, the motivating factors between why you're putting your time where you are, right? Look at your life and figure out, where does everything fall into? And as you look it over, ask yourself these questions. Which column gets the most hours? Which column gets the fewest? Which column is missing completely, if any? For a long time for me, there was 0 conscious consumption. Can you pick one activity to let go of so you can reallocate your time to another category? Just notice where all of your time is going. Like a money budget or a pantry check, a regular time inventory is just as important to help you reach your goals. Because even though the cultural maxim is, well, there's 24 hours in a day, not really, because 8 of those hours, hopefully, we're sleeping. So really, we're talking about 16 hours. So we need to know exactly where our moments are going in each of those 16 hours during the day. And from there, you can start to finesse your schedule, like batch tasking and eating the worm and other time management tricks. I'm going to do a whole future episode on how to absolutely own your to-do list. This episode is really more about the why. Why are you spending your time the way that you are? And that episode in the future will be on the how to maximize your to-do list. In the meantime, one of my favorite books on this topic is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, so I will leave a link to that in the show notes. So now that you know about the 4 C's and we've done a little time inventory, we need to talk about the bigger questions. Because if we don't, An inventory and other time management tricks are like putting a numbing cream on a toothache. It might take away the pain temporarily, but the underlying issue is not going to go away on its own. If you're so busy with life that you feel like you're drowning all the time, it's time to take a step back and reflect. Now, some of the questions that I'm about to ask you may be triggering, especially if you're a parent. You're probably thinking, what the heck, Hill? You don't know me. I don't have a choice. I have to do a million things. And you know what? Hey, that could totally be true. I see you. Your life is hard. 1,000,000%. I get that. But if you're having this much stress about your time, you owe it to yourself to do whatever you can to try to figure out why this is happening. Even if it feels like you have no choice over your schedule, I encourage you to examine this on a deeper level. With love, put your ego aside for a minute and ask yourself these questions with an open heart. Why am I doing all of this? Where did I learn that I couldn't say no to what others ask of me? What do I think will happen if I say no? Am I doing this because I want someone's validation? Do I seek approval to make up for the lack of approval I received in childhood, say from a parent? What does being busy allow me to get away with? This next one was my case. What does being busy give me an excuse not to address? And the last question, am I running away from something? Okay, take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. You just did a lot of work right there. All of these questions, tough as they are worth examining, because for some of us, it comes down to programming. And the programming goes so deep that we literally do not know what to do with free time. It's uncomfortable, it's foreign, it's crazy making. When I was asking those questions, if something intuitively popped up for you, I invite you to dig a little deeper on why your instincts answered the questions the way that it did. Chances are, the answer has at least something to do with why your schedule is the way that it is. To do this, to really dig deeper, I recommend meditation. I know, you've heard it, meditate and it'll change your life. But no, seriously, meditation healed my broken relationship with time. There's a Zen parable that says, if you have time, meditate for 10 minutes. If you don't have time, meditate for 1 hour. And I love this quote because when you meditate, not only does it calm your nervous system, but your higher wisdom can come through and say, hey, you don't need to do that thing that you think you need to do. It's coming from your ego. Try this instead. This is living from your heart space. I know in my case, if I would have listened earlier to what my higher self was trying to tell me about my busyness, I would have heard something like this. Hey, Hill, you're deeply heartbroken about your relationship. This is falling apart and you can't fix it. So you are adding a million things onto your plate in order to avoid the inevitable. You're totally checked out. It's time to have that tough conversation. Ugh, the things we learn in hindsight, am I right? For you, your reason for being so busy could be completely different. I don't know why you're so busy. But what I do know is the only way you're going to find out for sure is if you take a quiet moment for yourself. That's where meditation or journaling really helps. It doesn't have to be a long and involved process either. You can start peeling back the layers in just 10 or 15 minutes a day. And if meditation sounds like too much off the bat, try staring at a candle flame for 10 minutes. It's called Tritaka Sadhana, and it's the ancient Indian practice of candle gazing. I noticed that on the days where it's really hard for me to sit and meditate and be still, Tritaka activates something really primal in me, and it helps to quiet my mind and really allow that inner wisdom to seep through. Because it's really only from that place that you can start to make real adjustments and lasting changes to your schedule by letting go of the things that no longer serve you. And you can't do that if you don't know what those things are. The book Essentialism by Greg McKeown talks more about this, and it's excellent. So I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. Let's move into the final part of this podcast. What lessons can we glean about time from the Bluezones? I bet you thought this whole episode was going to be about how to fit more things in, not take things away, huh? Fair enough. But if you're not already convinced that it's time to let go of the energy leaks in your schedule, consider this research. This idea of slowing down to relax and taking more time out for things like creation and conscious consumption is not just conjecture or airy-fairy personal development nonsense. Researchers have studied the happiest, healthiest, and longest living people in the world, those who live well over 100 in concentrated areas. They're called blue zones, and these blue zones are located in the Mediterranean, Asia, and Latin America, among other places. In these areas, researchers have identified the power 9, the 9 factors that lead to a happier, healthier, longer life. It turns out only 20% of any of this has to do with your genes, and the other 80% has to do with lifestyle. One of the power 9 that I'm very interested in is called downshifting. This is intentionally living a more stress-free lifestyle and keeping white space in your schedule, like unplanned time for relaxation, rest, and reconnection with yourself and with others. In Okinawa, Japan, for example, they have a more casual relationship with time. They take naps during the day, they make time for tea with their loved ones, they don't rush. The locals refer to this as running on Okinawa time, Uchina time. This is similar to another blue zone in Nicoya, Costa Rica. They live by something called Tico time. Tico is another word for Costa Rican, and Tico time is an extension of their relaxed cultural mindset called pura vida, which means pure life in Spanish. It's sort of like whatever happens, happens. If you have good fortune today, pura vida. If you have bad fortune today, pura vida. Life flows. It is what it is. This attitude translates to how they view time. And then over in Sardinia, Italy, another blue zone, they take the time to enjoy and savor the little things. They do happy hour. They have meals that last 2 and 3 hours with loved ones. They, again, don't rush. They do the things that we normally brush aside and say, psh, I don't have time for that. What we can learn from these blue zones is that downshifting, it's a lifestyle, and it increases happiness, relationships, and maybe even how long you live. You know, I have my own example of this living in Miami. I thought the West Coast, where I'm from in California, was laid back, but Miami takes it to another level. Living here has really changed my relationship to time quite a bit. People that live here, like the blue zones, have a more casual relationship with their time, and it's this really beautiful thing. Miamians enjoy slow mornings. They take the time to sit outside and sip on a cafecito in the sun. If you don't know, cafecito is a small shot of pure Cuban espresso. And I haven't tried it because I only drink decaf, but it smells amazing, and I hear it's the rocket fuel that powers this whole city. Miamians understand that there's always time to sit and have a chat with your vecino, your neighbor. There's time to relax at the park and watch the iguanas in the palm trees. There's time to swim in the ocean. And when nature takes over, which is like every day at 3 p.m., there's even time to duck into a shop or stay inside and wait out a tropical storm for like half an hour. When you get onto nature's timeline rather than your own, it completely transforms how you view your hours on this planet. On the surface, all of this may seem like time wasted, but there's truly no such thing. I would argue that the only time wasted is the time that you don't spend enjoying your life, whatever that means for you. My greatest wish for you is that you can spend more time in creation and conscious consumption and conditioning rather than consumption, truly soaking up this human experience while you're still here in this lifetime, in this body. To wrap up, here's the takeaway of this whole episode. I want you to start owning your time as a currency. At the end of the day, your time and energy is your most precious resource. Advertisers pay millions of dollars every year for just a slice of it. It's that valuable. And unlike money, your time cannot be replaced. If you take nothing else away from this episode, make it this. We must learn to respect our time like we respect our dollars. Repeat after me. I own my time like I own my money. I spend it wisely. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or send this episode to someone you love. I so appreciate you, and your support is what keeps this show going. If you have a topic for a future episode, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me on decafplease.com or find me on Instagram at decaf.please. Until next time, peace be with you on your journey. I'm sending you so much light, love, and of course, that endless calm. We'll talk soon, okay? Bye.